You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
It wasn't pretty, but they found a way to get the job done in their first ever visit to Utah, presented by Bet365. It's time for the Tuesday edition of Leafs Morning Take. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill. What's up, buddy? How are we?
What is up? Yeah, that was a close one and a late one. And at the end of the day, don't gripe because they got 2 points, which are pretty valuable right now.
I know we were doomed. I knew it right away when I saw sort of plus money at the Leafs in regulation, sitting cozy up 3-0. And then this team got really tired, really fatigued. And I got to credit Utah. I've watched this team quite a bit this season. They were very fast and took advantage of a very lethargic Maple Leafs team last night.
Yeah, I haven't watched them a lot, but I thought that they played with a lot of jam and character, and they buzzed, and they feel like they got some grittiness, or they just kind of come in waves. And I was like,
tenacity.
Yeah, some tenacity. They got some jam. And the Leafs, they needed a pee-pee whack and had a little bit of a team meeting beforehand. So that worked. They came out, they did the right things, and they got the job done as far as getting their start down pat. 3-0 lead. You couldn't ask for more, and inevitably let their foot right off the gas. And their schedule has not helped that. The Four Nations have not helped that. But it's not a good sign, and it's kind of ugly to watch. But at the same time, we didn't spend a lot of time talking about the 4-0 road trip. So are we going to spend a lot of time? Like, how much are you going to point fingers? And it would be nice if they stopped blowing leads. I don't think that's been a hallmark of their entire season. So it's a little bit concerning, and I hope they sort that out right about now.
Our Super Chat charity partner this season is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. We talked about it yesterday. 2 home games in 42 days. And that looked like a team that was just ready to go home at bits and pieces of that hockey game, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. A little scrambly here and there. And there's some guys getting used to things around there. It'd be nice to settle in, get some comfortability, get some rest, be at home a little bit, and sort your stuff out. So, again, they found a way to win. That's huge. I do not like the trend of blown leads. Again, that's kind of old Leafs hockey that we feel like we've moved on from under Craig Berube. That used to be as predictable as a clock, and you haven't seen it this year. So give them the benefit of the doubt. They're sorting some things out, and like you said, fatigue could be an issue with their schedule lately.
So the Leafs back home, and a massive one coming up on Thursday night at Scotiabank Arena. Scott Lott and Brandon Carlo will make their home debuts. But the Florida Panthers in town, and Rosie, they're not going to have a guy who many have pegged already to be a Maple Leaf on July 1, and that's Aaron Ekblad, hit with a 20-game PED violation suspension coming out of nowhere. I wonder if they knew, because the Seth Jones trade's more intriguing to me, but that's a new one. I think the last time we saw a PED suspension was like 5 years ago for Nate Schmidt, if you can believe it.
Is that how long ago it's been? Hey, It shows you how it's not an issue. People ask me about stuff like that when I was in the league, and is any of that going on? It's like, God, no. Like, guys do what they got to do in the gym, but at the end of the day, it's just not part of the culture. And I believe him when he says he took something that he didn't think. I mean, there's all different levels of scrutiny on what's allowed. And you look at the Olympics, it's like the highest level of scrutiny. I mean, you take a Tylenol by accident and you're toast. They're really heavy with the testing there. And, it's on Ekblad. You have to know what you're putting in your body. No one's going to feel sorry or give you a pass if you put something that wasn't. I have no idea what you'd even put in, but, recovery is a big deal, and trying to be as healthy as you can, and you accidentally take a supplement that has something in it that's considered banned. I do not think the guy's a cheater. I don't think he's trying to be nefarious. I don't think he's, trying to skirt the rules or anything like that, but you're responsible for what you put in your body, and he screwed up. So it sounds like all accounts he's taken responsibility. He's going to take his 20-game dinger, including 2 games in the playoffs. So they will miss him, but, pretty fortunate they have Seth Jones in the backgrounds to eat up some of those minutes that he's used to logging.
I was gonna say if his goal was to get the better of the opposition and be a better player, I mean, it's been an up and down season for Aaron Ekblad, and like you, I genuinely believe him. Like he had a full statement that came out yesterday where he's like he had no, and this is usually how it goes down. Like, man, I still remember that Olympics, Nicky Backstrom. You just referenced it. Like, I don't know what he took, but he couldn't play in the gold medal game, and I think just even taking supplements the way I do sometimes on a daily basis for working out, it could have been something as small as taking a different creatine. Like we don't know the whole story, but I think to know everything you can and can't take, I think it requires a lot of knowledge, a lot of research, and sometimes guys don't have time. So in this scenario, most scenarios, I give guys the benefit of the doubt because we always see that statement come out. I had no clue what I took, but specifically in hockey, I have a hard time finding believe that this guy was trying to cheat the game, man.
Yeah, it's just not that prevalent. I think there's enough things out there that can help you to the level that you need to be at. Juicing up, and I don't even know what the hell guys could take to get them. I mean, you can crank the gym if you think your legs need to be stronger, you can get them as strong as they need to be in the off season. There's no real benefit, and you don't really know when you're going to get tested in the NHL. You show up to the practice rink and the tables are all set up, and the NHL faculty members or whoever the hell they are sitting there, and you just got to go piss. And I don't think that he was knowingly taking something that's banned and then goes and takes a P test and then gets tested positive. I don't believe that. So, sometimes you lean on trainers and people that you have in your life in the off season, and you trust them to take it. And then you're all of a sudden your fate's in their hands on how much research and knowledge they have. So again, I don't really believe it was intentional, but he took responsibility as he should have. You're responsible for your own body, and he must have screwed up, and it's going to cost him quite dearly. So we'll see how those pesky Cats look without him. Honestly, didn't break my heart whatsoever. I'm still recovering from the fact that they added Brad Marchand in that organization with the way they play and the success they have, and them being in the Leafs division. So if they get a little bit of a step back with the loss of him, it doesn't hurt my feelings whatsoever.
Again, a lot of relevance to the Maple Leafs because 3 of their final 19 games against the Florida Panthers, 2 playoff games, as you talked about, 18-2 here for Ekblad. And there's a pretty decent chance it could be Leafs and Panthers in the first round. And anything I think to help this Maple Leafs team out, especially against them, I think I'll take it. I'm right there with you. Ekblad is a key piece on that back end, slated to become a free agent on July 1. Last call for anyone who wants to come on the first ever TLN Nation vacation. We're headed to Nashville from Thursday, March 20th through Sunday, March 23rd. In addition to supplying your ticket to the Toronto-Nashville game on the Saturday night, we'll be hosting a live podcast at Love and Exile Winery and Bar in East Nashville. As part of that experience, there will be a winery tour involved. We're offering 2 packages, one with flights, $24.50 plus tax, one without, $12.99 plus tax. Hotel rooms are double occupancy. Also, if you're looking for just a ticket to the game, we have a few of those left as well. $200 plus tax, the price for that. For more information on how to book, head on over to nationgear.ca. That's nationgear.ca, or you can check out the link in our show bio. Life's too short for ordinary vacations. Oh, yes, as Rosie just intimated to me during that commercial, he is pumped for this Nashville trip. We are 9 days away from going to Nashville, Rosie. How about that?
That we are. That's crept up fast, man. I'm excited, man. We got a dump of snow. Like I said yesterday, I could get on an airplane and get down to some fun spots where we got a lot planned, as you mentioned. So looking forward to it. Anyone who wants to jump on, last call.
Let's do it. At the Leafs Nation 4-1 here on YouTube. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Roll Up to Win is back at Tim Hortons, and that means you can win millions of amazing prizes with just a swipe of a thumb. Imagine turning your routine Tim's run into an unforgettable vacation with Sell-Off Vacations, a $1,000 racket and cash prize, or an all-new, all-electric 2025 Volkswagen ID Buzz. You only have until March 23rd, so open up that Tim's app and get rolling. Play Roll Up to Win today. Rules apply. Canada only. No purchase necessary. Visit the Tim's app for details. So the Maple Leafs squeak out a 4-3 shootout win in Utah, and only fitting, I thought Mitch Marner gets the winner there, Rosie.
He sure is a factor in a lot of the games lately since the Four Nations,
Dude,
isn't
what's
he?
going on? That was, that game piqued my interest. I know we talked about Saturday. He was great in that one, but he looked nervous, man. He looked nervous in the first couple periods. Just the giveaways that are very uncharacteristic. Like he looked into it, man. He looked in it.
Yeah, I mean, he plays a certain style that is so high skill and an IQ that is not always on the same pages of other people. When it's not going well, it looks pretty ugly, and when it's going well, it is at the top of the league's potential as far as their stars. And he's been playing really good lately, and he has bet on himself, and he has taken a road that is open himself up to criticism, and he is not just taking the security or the easy way. He believes in himself, and his confidence is at an all-time high ever since the Four Nations face off is when I noticed it really leap off the page, and he's a big factor in the Leafs right now. I'm not getting into his contract or his status or anything. They're on a push right now. They need to win that division to prevent them from playing one of the Florida teams in the first round, which I believe is crucial. You can go play a wild card team and get your feet wet and try to get some momentum, try to get hot at the right time and catch lightning in a bottle, and then just roll right into one of those Florida teams after they kick the crap out of each other. I think that is 100% the most viable way of getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, as opposed to jumping right into one of those teams. You know how the pressure feels. You know what it's like, even for a fan. You feel that as a player. So he's been a big part of that push, and I hope he continues doing it as every time he gets an opportunity lately to be a factor in a deciding player in the game, he seems to be up for the task.
Yeah, and I think in general, to your point, like it's been an amazing season, just last night specifically, and I guess across the board. The team looked fatigued, they looked gassed, they looked bagged. They didn't have much left in the tank, and I think we saw that in OT too, where Utah was at least skating circles around them. And Joseph Woll, I thought, was the big story, big stop on Gunther, but more so to get the puck and freeze the puck. But just the turnovers, and you can't just blame Marner. I know people are going to pick that up on social media now because of everything, all the hoopla the last couple days. But it was Tavares with the giveaways, it was Matthews, it was Nylander, it was across the board. Again, they just look so tired in that game. And support a sick kids. Rush, appreciate the super chat. Tanev was meant to be the perfect Riley partner on day one. Why not go for that before playoffs? Riley, Tanev, McCabe, Carlo would be a better setup. I guess we can get into that conversation as well because we're 2 games in and it's been a whirlwind. So I got to give these guys the benefit of the doubt, but I've barely noticed Carlo, barely noticed Scott Lawton so far.
Yeah, not really. I don't think the teams played phenomenal around them. Not bad though. Went out and jumped and got the lead against
Yeah.
two pretty good teams both times. I would like just things to settle down with their schedule. It does seem hectic. It seems like they've been on the road the whole time. Gone through a pretty emotional trade deadline for those two players specifically. So I'm looking to a big game against Florida and see what they have for a 60-minute effort. I imagine they've got the pieces right now as far as, like you say, you start on time and you jump out to the right things, but you have the team meeting for a reason. Like, guys, this isn't good enough. This isn't what we've been aiming for all season. This isn't us. Whether it's fatigue or not, I'd like to see kind of all their ducks in a row and see how they attack a game. And those two players in particular, I'm giving them a hell of a lot more than 2 games to assess where they fit on this roster. And there's no better time than Thursday against Florida. I mean, it is a huge game. It's a 4-point game. You do not want Florida to get any points off of you. You want to win that in regulation, and it'll be huge for the standings. So that'll be a big test. I'm looking for Scott Lawton to step up in that game, bang and crash, play with a little bit of vigor. As you can tell, he's kind of trying to, but he hasn't really found his spot. But I mean, old Lots could start the tone with a bit of a scrap against someone, or be banging and crashing, and let those cats know that that this is a new Toronto Maple Leafs team they need to take very seriously.
Yeah, and I would say it's typical to guys coming to Toronto, especially in the Berube era, where they feel the need to like prove a point. Like Lawton took a needless cross-check penalty last night, like after a whistle. Carlo's been in the box quite a bit. Zoran the Barbarian writes in, I noticed Carlo in the penalty box. Then point guard writes in, talking about Scott Lawton. Lawton can't skate. Not sure why Leafs got him. Like, it's typical Leafs Nation. I wouldn't. I'm reserving judgment for a long period of time. It's been a whirlwind last couple of days, especially for two guys who have been with their respective organizations for a long period of time. And you could probably speak to this. Like, there's going to be a feel out process, and on top of that, as you talked about, this Leafs team has not been good in these two games since the deadline.
Yeah. Like when you have a team meeting like that, it's because everything's kind of off the rails, and the coach can smell that you're kind of going in the wrong direction, and you're making the mistakes that maybe you've thought you have got out of your game, or that wasn't part of your DNA. And you need to have a sit down and say, okay, mentally, everyone needs to reset. They did that and then got off to a hell of a good start, but obviously the mental fatigue, the physical fatigue caught up to them, and they blew another lead. So that needs to absolutely stop. I always think that's more mental than physical. It's pretty easy when you are tired mentally to get out to a lead and be like, oh, good, we got this one. Oh, thank goodness. This isn't going to be a disaster scenario. We don't have to have another meeting. The sky's not falling. This is nice. And everyone kind of exhales and leans back. And you're playing against a team with a lot of piss and vinegar, and away they come, and they tie the game under 4 minutes. Like, that's how fast it can happen in that league. So mentally, I'd like to see them get some confidence and some power back. How that happens with the schedule, with where they're going, it's up to them. But getting home and getting a little bit relaxed and getting settled, I think, will be huge.
What do you think of team meetings? You brought it up a couple of times. I interpreted that team meeting as, hey, this Mitch Marner noise, we gotta nip this in the bud. That's why we had the impromptu Brad Treliving press conference or media scrum the other day, and then Berube has a team meeting. I didn't take it as a team's not playing well, but maybe you read it differently. Do you think it's a card coaches just use too much?
No, I don't. I really like them, and yes, you always have a team. You always have a team meeting after the trade deadline, and it's
Okay.
a simple. This is the group we're going with.
A
We've
rah
made
rah speech, eh?
we've made the moves that we thought were made sense for this group, but we really believe in this team. We're very excited now that there's no distractions. We're going full tilt down the rails with this group, and this is what we believe in. It's one of those. But when Craig's talks type thing, I think it's we need to start playing this kind of hockey. You guys know what it feels like when it's going well, and here's what the patterns are when it's not going well, and here's the stuff we need to negate. We got these two new additions. We're very excited for them. The reason we got them is because they fit the bill for this structure we're looking towards and this identity we want to become. Rah, here we go. This is how we want to play. And that happens all the time after a trade deadline. But no, sometimes I think as a coach, it's kind of your only weapon. And if you still hold the room, and if you still hold the respect of the guys, which Craig Berube absolutely does, those meetings can kind of be like a little reset of, oh yeah, and kind of pull everyone together. And maybe some guys say a couple things here or there. And it's just kind of get everyone on the same game board again, which I think is very valuable. And it's a tool you don't want to overuse. But if you feel yourself slipping a little bit and you're getting off track, getting everyone in the same room on the same page mentally is huge.
Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button at the Leafs Nation 401 here on YouTube. To your point, I thought Joseph Woll was the biggest reason why the Maple Leafs win that game. OT was something else, man. The back and forth. And again, Utah, very, very speedy. I think a lot of people who don't watch that team don't realize that. But they play with some jam, identity, tenacity. There's a reason why they're flirting with a playoff spot this year in Utah. We'll see if they get there in the Western Conference. But again, I thought Woll was great in the shootout. I thought he was great in OT. And just what the doctor ordered in terms of a response. We went and talked about the numbers yesterday in his last 5 appearances prior to that game. I thought he stepped up large in that one in Utah.
Yeah, dude, the second period, like a little bit into it, I was like almost send on a tweet that said, Joseph Woll looks calm and poised and patient again. That's a really good sign. And then it was boom, boom, boom. They tied it up. I was like, thank God I didn't send that, or I'd be getting rinsed talking about how I hexed it. But that aside, I mean, that one, whose shot was that just had
The third
seen
one?
eyes? Oh my
Yeah.
God. It like went through a forward and 2 D-man and through Woll. It was just not one that you can really pin on him. But I started to see his play be that guy that is very poised. And like you saw it in the shooter, like he's not biting on anything. He's waiting for you to move. He's reading the play very well. And it's like as soon as he knows where it's going and how it's going, then he places himself in front and makes the save, and it looks easy. I've seen him in the recent past kind of swimming around a little bit and jogging and reacting to what he sees rather than him being in the right position and kind of swimming in the crease a little bit. And I know Joseph Woll as being that very poised guy that seems to move with confidence. Stoli does it very well too. Looks a little bit different with Stoli and his butterfly being his huge frame. He just takes up everything and he tends to be everywhere. But Woll's calling card to me when he's playing good is a very calm, relaxed demeanor in the net. And he seemed to have it for the most part last night, which is a great sign. And he was a big part for them being in that game.
We saw some filthy goals in that shootout, like the Johan Santana changeup for Austin Matthews. The Marner tuck was filthy. The Clayton Keller one, like that. It's tough to be a goalie when there's just this much skill in the league these days.
Oh, tell me about it. The guys have all different tools and tricks. The shootout's been around a while. You come in with blazing speed like Willie, or you come in at a snail's pace and make them, adjust their spot in the crease and how quickly they back off, and you get them kind of stuck on their heels and they react to one little shoulder drop. It's very difficult. I can't even imagine being a goalie, but those were some dirty moves. Austin Matthews to me just leapt off the page as that off speed, kind of like a little half limpy wrister thing. It looks like you're going to load it up to rocket it. And he opened up his blade and just flubbed it off in that top right corner. It was disgusting. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, what did I just see? And it was as good as it takes. And for a guy that's, he's getting lots of points and being a factor and everything, but he's not the same guy. He's not shooting the way we've seen. To do that in a shootout takes a lot of guts, and it paid off. It looked dirty.
What was your shootout move? Dump it in the corner or?
No, it was dirty, actually. It was fade to the left and go to my backhand, and no one would ever think that you would release that. So they're thinking you're going to pull it back to your forehand, and they read it going off to my left. And then I just backhand flick it in the top right, and it almost worked every time. Overseas, we got to like the 6th round of a shootout. No one was scoring. And I look at my coach. I'm like, fucking put me in. He's like, go. So I do it, pating, bar, and everyone was like, dirty. And then they went and scored there first. So he's like, you're going again. I'm like, I don't have anything else. So I went and acted like I was doing the exact same thing. And he kind of covered top shelf, and I did the exact same thing, but 5-hole backhand. Not a huge deal. Just won the game and possibly the entire season.
You're telling me you pulled a Jonathan Tace in Grand Forks all those years ago where he just kept scoring and scoring and scoring in the shootout.
No, I just did it twice, but that is my claim.
That was 3. Dude, that tournament was insane. To do it 3 times in a row, ice cold in your veins, man.
Well, it made like TJ Oshie's career down in the States as far as people knowing who he was in the playoffs. That was 2010, I think. That was ridiculous as well. But no, not a shootout master, but it was kind of funny because guys on the team kind of all knew that I had this little backhand shelf thinger that you wouldn't expect, and for whatever reason, it seemed to work.
Who would have thought? Speaking of which, I thought we saw Pappy play with a bit of piss and vinegar the third period. We were talking about in our group chat the hit on Sergachev, who is a thick dude, man. That guy is sturdy. Fucking smoked him. I thought it was a really motivated Matthews in the third period in OT. And again, a lot's been made on social media, but man, I always like to recall that conversation in the offseason, specifically on Overdrive on TSN, a great show, where they're like, would you rather Matthews scoring 40 goals and the Leafs go far, or 69 for Matthews? The process has been turbulent, but I've noticed the guy. Like, I think defensively he doesn't get enough accolades. And I think you look at it, Edmonton, same conversation. Connor McDavid, I don't want to say he looks disinterested, but he looks like a guy preparing for the postseason.
Perhaps. I look at them differently. I don't think Austin Matthews has looked like his best self since the run up to the playoffs last year, where I believe he was hurt and they kept playing him to try to get 70. I wanted him to get 70. I didn't want them to rest him necessarily, but I didn't want them to ride him. But I don't believe he's been himself. If you look at him shoot the puck this year, it happened last night a couple times. These one-timers that you're used to him just putting in a space that's open, whatever one he chooses, short side shelf if you want, and it just going right where he wants it. Now he just wraps the glass, and it looks like he's just ripping it, not blindly, but just he doesn't seem to be able to label it. And I just don't know if that's his back or something that's going on, but he's not scoring at a rate that I think we're used to seeing that is like phenomenal. But that being said, he's still on this point streak that I don't even know what it's reached anymore. Like it's just he rattles off points and is involved in plays like nobody else. And again, when he's on the ice, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot against. Defensively, he is very responsible, and it seems like he's getting a little piss and vinegar now. You mentioned that big hit he did where he ran the guy, which, most stars don't do. And then that breakaway where it wasn't a breakaway. He went up the right side and roast the D-man and kind of, a guy was trying to get him on the inside. He goes to the outside, goes wide, and almost gets a piece of it. It would have been a highlight reel goal. But that was at the very end of his shift. I was like, man, Austin's got to get off. And then he went and turned the Jets on, which, shows that he's willing to go to uncomfortable places to have success. So if he gets his shot going and starts scoring from all kinds of places like he was last year, you combine that with the other parts of his game and look the hell out. And I hope he's just trying to peak at the right time. But I have my concerns from watching him and his shot in recent play.
The 12-game point streak concluded last night, but you talked about that in the third period in OT specifically. I thought in general the big guys took too long of shifts, and that's why they got caught out there. A couple times in OT, a couple in the third period. I know coaches always stress short shifts, and you're gonna cut some slack for your star players, but these guys have been playing a lot lately. Like it's not one thing we're gonna look back at this season and fault Craig Berube for not playing the big boys enough, eh?
I don't think you can. No. I don't
Remember
know
those combos with Keefe all the time? It's like, why isn't he playing Matthews enough and Marner and all that and Nylander? Not anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't judge the coaches on what they do, what combinations work, ice time wise.
That's a lie. Last year, like, man, Keefe goes through so many line combinations. You're going nuts about it.
Yeah, I don't like how he doesn't leave it, but I'm not the guy to say this is what's going to work or this is who should be playing together. I'm not that guy. But yeah, Keefe was ridiculously in a blender. It was 3 days before the goddamn playoffs, and he's just rattled off an entire new forward set. Like that's ridiculous. So I will say that. But who needs to play with who and how much ice time? It's tough because you got your big boys. Do you want to ride them into the ground? No, but you have invested the way your structure of the team works through these certain players. So they need to be out there at all the important moments. The tough thing is when you got like a Marner and a Matthews killing penalties, that's tough, man. I mean, it's great they can do it and I appreciate it, but where do most guys break their foot blocking shots? It's on the PK. How hard is it to, throw out your big boys after a big kill and gain momentum back and capitalize on the momentum you get from killing a penalty? Well, your guys just got off killing. So it's kind of tough. I almost wouldn't mind if they backed off the PK a little bit, and that would be a way to kind of thin their minutes out and keep them for the important parts. Again, it's up for Craig to Berube to adjust accordingly.
And we'll see how much he trusts Scott Laughton, who played a big-time role with Philadelphia. Brandon Carlo, I know he's in the back end and played a lot of minutes for the Boston Bruins on the blue line. And no doubt this team misses Chris Tanev. I think that's a default answer on social media when they get scored on. Well, we miss Chris Tanev. I think defensively across the board, this team needs to be better. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. The whole reason a lot of you are here today is to hear more about Simone Benois against Michael Kesselring. Let's start. Was that a good time to take that fight up 3-0 in that hockey game, Rosie?
I would say no. I mean, normally when you get that lead and you get challenged by a guy, it's a time where you'd shake him off and say, not right now. But when a guy does choose to do it, I never fault them. You just got to make sure that you don't give the other team any momentum and you go absolute guns blazing and see what you can get out of it. Wild start, man. This Superman punch. I've never seen anything like. I don't advise it. I laugh at it. It's wild. I'm not judging, but I don't see the benefit of jump. Even his right leg is leading and up, and then throwing with your right hand. That like just momentum wise doesn't really make sense. But in the moment for Benoit, he said he's done that before against Goodbranson. I'll have to go back and check the tape, but. And then after that, just holding on for dear life, getting thrown at, I would try to keep the offense going as much as I possibly could rather than backing off on D while the guy just throws about 6 And then he inevitably was happy with his fight, flipped on the banana peel and pulled Benoit down. All good in the hood at the end of the day. I don't think you can expect them to bury 3 afterwards, but that is an example of why maybe you'd shake a guy off and say not right now when you've got a 3-goal lead, and make sure that you don't give them any energy and any life.
So what is it? The element of surprise? Do you think guys pull out that move? Like Kevin Bieksa was infamous for that.
Yeah, and it worked for BX a few times. I don't know, like there's nothing about leaping into the air on your skates that would think to me that you would get the upper hand or anything. Maybe you scare a guy or something or get him, but I mean, the biggest thing about fighting on skates is that you got to have really good edge work and understand where your weight's transferred and everything on your blades. And if you are good at that, you're very tough to get jostled around. You can't get pulled in a direction you don't want to, and you're always on your center of balance. So jumping up in a Superman thing, it's not my idea of a great strategy, but he seemed to like it. Says he's done it before. It worked for BX as well, and it looks wild and it looks exciting and it's hilarious. And I had to rewind it a couple times to see what the hell he did, which was pretty interesting. But I don't think it's a strategy a ton of guys are going to adopt. At least I would be very surprised if they did.
I think the timing was just interesting for me. You're up 3-0 in that game. And again, we speak to it because of what happened following and ensuing the hit or the fight, where it's like they score 3 goals in 3:57. Was that momentum, or was that just the Leafs like stop playing? Like, how did you read it?
I couldn't know if I'm not on the bench. I mean, the
Yeah.
best place in the world to read and react to the energy flows of a game is to be a part of it and to be out there and to hear what guys are saying after each shift, to feel what the coach is doing and what his decisions are, what they're doing out there. The back and forth is so palpable. It's almost painful to watch on TV for me, because I'm like, it's just back. You're just not feeling what's going on, so it's hard to judge. But when you score that 3rd goal, and it was Benoit that scored it too, so he's kind of still jacked up, and a guy over it happen all the time. It used to happen 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 times a game where a guy's trying to get a fight, and you got to really pick your spots, and it makes it easy because there's so many opportunities to do something like that. Nowadays, a guy comes up to Benoit, he's jacked up after scoring, pumped that it didn't get called back, and it was a good goal. You got a 3-goal lead, gets asked. Doesn't happen very often this day and age, just obliges him. I'm not against it, but looking at it with hindsight, it wasn't the time to go. Again, I'm never going to fault a guy for deciding to go. I love the fact that Benoit did and tried to go out there, but pick your spots a little better, which is kind of tough when it's not something that happens. I mean, how many fights have we seen on the Leafs this entire goddamn season? 2. It's not a thing that happens all the time. So, I'm not blaming it all on him, but yeah, you don't want to give a team momentum when they're about to make a huge charge. Give them even more reason to do so.
No Clue writes in, those refs were atrocious. I should preface by saying I'm not the guy who rags on the officials. I think it's a tough job, but they were awful last night. Some of the calls, and you talked about the 3-3 goal. The call that led to that, again, was Benoit, and I guess they called him on a trip, but the guy fell on his own, and I didn't like the OEL penalty either, like the goalie interference. So he had like a bit of a collision with the Utah player. It's like we need to figure out what we're doing here, because I thought the refs were out to lunch for the most part in this game. Even, something as small as blowing the whistle after a Leaf was high sticked and Utah hadn't touched the puck. Like, those are precious seconds when you're on the PK and you're going to get that power play coming up.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal. I'm not a big, I talk to guys around life that are into hockey, and every bloody team, whether it's the Oilers, the Montreal Canadiens, the Leafs fans, they all think that there's this conspiracy against them. It's frigging embarrassing. And they can't just put together that sometimes there's bad calls and you're only watching your team and you're completely biased towards them. So you think that they're against you, you moron. Every team has bad calls called against them. The one on Benoit, yeah, you have the crew in the truck finds the perfect camera angle that shows, oh, he did not get a piece of him there and cause him to fall. But for a ref that's across the ice looking through 4 guys at a different angle, looks tailor perfect that he got his stick under his blade and caused him to fall, and your arm just goes up instantly. That's your job. Turns out it was the wrong call and you botched it. It happens. I don't like to ride the refs. I would like them to be better. My biggest thing is to stop calling the ticky-tack bullshit and stopping the momentum of play to give a 2-minute minor because a guy's stick kind of went around a guy's arm. Like that's what's gross to me. But when they miss a call, it happens. It happens to every single team. And there's going to be certain nights where it happens to yours more than others. And last night, that was probably the case for the Maple Leafs. It is frustrating, yes, but I assure you it happens to every single team throughout the season.
Tell you what, a very animated Craig Berube on the bench last night. He was giving it to the refs, the players, even called a timeout to do so. Like he was in one. You could tell early on, Berube's like, I don't know if I'm getting the best set of my team. They look tired. They look fatigued. Let's get their spirits going. But I love when coaches rip in the refs. Does it remind you of any coaches you had in your career where they're just losing it all the time?
Oh, all of them really. Like Chief would get intense like that behind us, and yeah, if you think your team's got reason to be sluggish and maybe to be, maybe not have the most energy going, and your adrenaline's not really there, and there's reason to get fired up to the refs, which all things were present last night for Craig Berube. You inject some intensity and some tenacity in there, and all you're trying to do is make the refs be like, oh boy, maybe I have botched a couple of these, and I need to make sure that I don't call another soft one on this certain team when the coach is going bananas. And then at the same time, kind of wake everyone up on the bench going, holy crap, this guy's losing his marbles back there. I don't mind it at all. As long as it doesn't become a pattern and a habit. Sometimes the guy back there is doing it all the time and you just completely tune it out. And then when there's a time where he really needs to get through to you, you're kind of like, oh yeah, that guy's still talking. You don't want to lose it like that. And I don't think Craig does that at all. I think it was a good time to try to make a statement and inject some intensity there.
I would love to know the line you can't cross with officials because lip reading sometimes, like guys say a lot. You've been on that bench.
It is funny, man. They take a lot of abuse and they actually come up and look right in your face and take it and hear you out, which I respect. I coach minor hockey. I know a buddy of mine has been suspended for 3 games for yelling "hook," and the guy just turned around and kicked him out and he got suspended. Like you can barely talk to refs, and even in minor hockey, other refs or other coaches around me are going nuts, and I'm just like, yeah, you can see what it is. Like he thought it was a hook and he called it. Like, I don't know, it's screaming and yelling. I don't really get that heated about it. I just know they go both ways, and being a ref sucks, and you have a point of view on the ice and you're obstructed by every other player on the ice. It's very difficult not to miss a few here and there. You just hope it doesn't catch you at the worst possible time, doesn't catch you in the playoffs. That's why the whistle goes away in the playoffs. The refs don't want to be the deciding factor in something as big as that. So it is what it is. I'm definitely not the Leafs fan that is thinking there's a conspiracy against us by the league.
Man, I still vividly remember like watching the NBA growing up, and it was, I guess, like the Malice at the Palace and all that. But there was like a no tolerance era where these refs were just teeing guys up for like standing up on the bench. Like it got ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just crazy to think about,
Well, that was a wild era in the NBA, and those guys
Ron
don't.
Artest, remember that dude?
Yeah, there's some guys in that era that don't have a lot of discipline as far as pulling back. So the league needed to make sure it didn't turn into like the embarrassing things that could happen and did happen. So they made sure they teed everyone up right away. And luckily, I think the players and the coaches understand that there is a line, and I can let them have it for a second there, and then they'll take it and then move on. Anything past that's probably going to be addressed. But it seems like that NHL is far away from a problem with the officials as far as the abuse they take.
Yeah, and I think the positive note I'll grab from this game, among other things, Toronto's power play. You starting to
Yeah.
see them turn a bit here, Rosie?
It's looking that way. I mean, second unit in there, and their entries are a little cleaner and more direct and more north. It's less ticky tack bullshit, which maybe these big boys are realizing. Like it's probably so hard to have all that skill and to have to play north south and do the stuff that is proven to yield results, but you want to play fancy hockey because you're capable of it and it's fun and it gets you on the highlight reel and it gets you endorsements and you're on the score. Well, I don't think that shit really leads to being on the score sheet as much as it does doing it the right way. But they seem to have start adopting the idea that it's not a fancy dickhead behind the bass no look drop pass. It's get it in with control, set it up, get your chances, any opportunity you get at the net, get bodies, get rebounds, and banging around. And they're having some pretty good low plays there where they're getting it on the side of the net on the low play and finding stuff up top, whether it's Nyes or JT or whoever coming down the barrel. So it's nice to see them have success because they have struggled this year. I hope that's something that continues to build as we know how important special teams are in the playoffs.
You talked. It was great to see the second unit score. Like Calle Yarncroke, his first goal in
Yeah.
429 days. January 6, 2024, his last NHL goal. Scores on the power play in the slot. I love secondary scoring wherever it comes from, dude. Like Benois gets credit for that one. He hadn't scored in 411 days, 91 total games. Like I just love when it's not the known suspects scoring goals here.
It's awesome. It's a great sign. We know we've got goal scoring and points coming from the big boys, and that's how the team's designed. But I don't think you're going to go the distance or do anything in the playoffs if you don't get secondary scoring. I think they're trying to balance out the lines a little bit with the Scott Laughton trade and try to get it where they have more opportunity to get that secondary scoring. On the back end, if the OELs are chipping in, if Benoit's getting them, if you can get Morgan Rielly, God, how about at the end of the game there with that play from JT to Morgan Rielly?
Oh, that was nasty, man.
Like, can you imagine he buries that and they go up 4-3? There was only a handful of minutes left. Would have been huge for Morgan Rielly and his confidence, and he did everything right. The guy just got the goddamn paddle on. I could not believe how big that would have been specifically for Morgan Rielly if he buried that. But guys like him start to get on the score sheet. I just want everyone to start getting some confidence going so that they all know that they're capable of getting their chances and converting them, because a little bit of help from the outside is going to be huge in the playoffs as far as point production goes.
What did you think of the Lorentz Kampf Holmberg fourth line? I love that Holmberg's on line 2 a week ago. Now he's on the fourth line, but he's crashing and banging. He's playing well, man. I thought he was good and effective in that game again.
I don't mind it, man. I think if those guys that can work their bag off, they're not the star player who's going to bitch and moan if they're down there. I mean, no one wants to get demoted, quote unquote, or at least go to a place where you know you're going to get less opportunity and less minutes. But Holmberg is the kind of player where, he's not. I don't think he has any leg to stay on to say I'm better than this. This is bullshit. I mean, he could just as easily be scratched throughout the year as being played on the second line or get shuffled around. But I like it as far as if they're going to adopt the mentality of work their nuts off, get it deep, move, finish your checks, swarm the net, throw everything at the net, crash it a little bit, and then get the hell off. That's what you want when you throw that line out there. Okay, you're running this, you had a power play, you had a PK, get that line out there, boom, boom, do a little bit of that, then get Marner and Mitchell or whoever the next big boy is and try to capitalize on any bit of momentum or ozone time that fourth line can get. It's big, and I don't mind it at all. I think when, unfortunately, you take Revo out, you give yourself the opportunity to have a line like that.
Been a quiet stretch too for Bob McMann. Hasn't scored in 10 games, but it just shows you the ebbs and flow of a regular season. Like even thinking last night, it's been like a roller coaster year for the Maple Leafs, but it just shows you, Rosie, like an 82 game slate, man, the ups and the downs and the winning streaks, the losing streaks. And Bob McMahon's the guy who has been struggling to bury as of late.
Yeah, he kind of has. You forget. I look at the sheet and the names, and I like him kind of. I think he's better suited to be on that second line with his shot and his working ability. But yeah, I haven't noticed him a whole lot. So, you can analyze the 24 guys that can come in and out of the lineup and how they're doing over the course of a season. It's going to ebb and it's going to flow, and guys will have a month where you're not getting the bounces and you don't seem to be going to the right spots, and you go to where you usually are and the puck's not there, so you change things up, and then it goes to where you're usually at, and it's frustrating, and you're trying to get things going. But whatever it is with Bobby McMann, all I can do is hope from where I'm sitting in this chair doing what I do with you, that they get hot at the right times and they find each other. And chemistry is everything. You see it in playoff series. It's like, holy shit, that third line is just producing, and they're hotter than a pistol, and they're throwing them out there, and they're making things happen every time. And they got that tie-up goal in game 3. Remember that? And they become stories, and you want a line to get hot at the right time and do those types of things. And Bobby McMann's exactly the type of player with his contract and his money, being such a valuable asset to this team. And then he's also got the skill set to play above it, and you need him to do that and to get hot at the right times.
Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Every face-off, hat trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app today and use code NATION. That's NATION, N-A-T-I-O-N. To get in on the game, must be 19 or older, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit ConnexOntario.ca as we'll look at the card for the NHL on this Tuesday. By the way, did you see the ending to that game, Detroit and Ottawa, and the Wings
Yeah.
scoring as the clock hit 0 and it didn't count? Like, what a way to lose that game. They dropped 6 in a row now, Rosie.
It wasn't even as the clock hit 0. It was far after the clock hit 0, and they sallied like they had won.
Well, you
the
can't hear it
cup.
as a player. You're just trying to put the puck in the net, no?
Yeah, that was way late. You can hear the horn and see the light and everything else. I'm surprised they sallied that hard for how late that was. The ref was just clearly like, no goal. So I kind of had a chuckle because it was a sense. But yeah, you're gonna see a lot of that coming down the stretch. There is a ton of races in the East and the West. There's wild card positions that are up for grabs where you just keep going down, waiting for the separation, and you don't. There's like 4 or 5 points, and you're going down like 6 teams. It's crazy. Any team that gets hot and starts stealing points, man, is going to have a chance. So I think we're in for a pretty exciting finish to the regular season. Oftentimes, just the way it shakes out, things are kind of set up and settled, and you're like, okay, well, and you start like the number one talking point is who you're going to rest and how much you're going to rest them. And it's just boring as hell waiting for the playoffs. I don't see that this year. I see a whole bunch of teams going to have to go full throttle to set themselves up in the best position possible, whether that's winning a division or getting the wild card. It's going to be interesting, and you can see that taking shape already.
Yeah, that's right. It started getting mighty interesting in terms of the wild card spots, and we're keeping a keen eye on that as well. Of course, the Maple Leafs could finish first in the division, take on Ottawa or a team like that. But our play for tonight, at least mine, I'm going to play the under. Winnipeg hosting the New York Rangers. It's Shesterkin against Hellebuck. For my money, maybe the best 2 goaltenders on the planet. I think you're going to see a bit of playoff hockey in that one. The Rangers fighting for their playoff lives as well.
Should I go to the depths of the barrel here and take the Sharks against the Preds at 140 money line? Why not? I'm rolling the dice today. Sharks 140 against the Preds.
Have we located Luke Schenn yet, by the way? Actually, I saw he's wearing number 5 with Winnipeg. He had a nice little release on social media.
Honestly, no. During the game yesterday, I was meaning to just text him what the hell's going on and forgot to, but he's got a ton on his plate. But usually he reaches out. I'll send him a text and see where his head's at here.
He's had enough, man. He's had enough. I guess he heard your comments on him going to Winnipeg, going to Pittsburgh. I want to interview him, just ask him like what went through his brain when he found out he was going to Pittsburgh for a hot minute there.
I know. I did talk to Braden, and he's just like, "This is fucked," kind of thing. Like, it doesn't make sense, is what the idea was. But I had a feeling he'd get flipped again, and I don't know. With some term left, you're kind of in Winnipeg for a while there. Again, professionally, I think it's nice to go to a team that's as hot as they have been all year. But personally, I think it's a bit of a shit show for him right now.
Yeah, Nashville, Pittsburgh, that trade was just so weird on so many levels. Like, it just didn't need to happen. And to have Luke Schenn in it, and the way Kyle Dubas spoke when they picked up Schenn, it's like they're keeping this guy. What for? You're not making the playoffs for the next like 3 or 4 years. Anyways, Rosie, we'll leave it at that. You are off tomorrow. Dave Pagnotta, the 4th period, alongside as my co-host, and we're gonna get set for, I guess, the biggest game to date of the regular season. The Leafs hosting the Florida Panthers on Thursday night. How about that?
No Marchand, no Ekblad, correct?
Kachuk as well, not playing.
Oh, yeah. That is nice, man. Take advantage. 4-point game. 2 for us, 0 for them. That's what you got to have. That's a big one, man. So looking forward to that. I will be there on Thursday to tee that one up with you, man. Looking forward to it.
I don't feel bad at all, because last time Toronto played Florida, half the Leafs roster was out and the Panthers handed them their lunch. So I hope the Leafs do the exact same thing coming up on Thursday. Of course, they're duking it out for the Atlantic Division title. So many thanks to everybody in the chat. You guys are great as per usual at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Thank you to producer Vic. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk tomorrow. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.